Hi, welcome back. I'm Rocky, and I will be doing my July wrap-up. And to start, the first book I read was The Merciless by Danielle Vega. I'm not going to go into it too much, because I will have a book review up about this. It was just very interesting, and very different. I really enjoyed it. There were some aspects that I didn't, but again, I will discuss that in another video for you guys. The second book I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book in the Grisha trilogy. This book also included bonus content, which included a lost letter from Maul, and it also included like Q&A questions with the author, and it was just very interesting, both the Q&A questions on the writing process and what she thought about the book and when she was writing it. Also, the lost letter from Maul I loved it. I'm glad it was included. It was just like a little snippet. But the first book, this has been on my TBR for quite a while. And I just finally got to it because on Goodreads, a buddy wanted to read this with me. This and the second book. So I'm like, well, this has been on my TBR, so I'm like, I'm gonna pick it up, and it looks interesting. I originally bought it because I loved the artwork on the cover. It's just so... I love the gothic style of it and whatnot. The story itself was pretty good. I did enjoy the second book a little bit more. This one, it just was like... It was interesting for her first book. I wish it just had more about the war and more about, like, her studying or something. It's more about the love story and her being on her own for the first time and her deciding who she wants to be with and who she is, which is fine, but it was more about the love story than the actual story itself, I think. Again, it was still really good first book, but I really preferred the second book in the series. And like I said, I haven't read the third one yet, so I can only compare the first two books. The third and fourth book I read was The Lightning Thief and The Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. I've been meaning to start this series for quite a while. My significant other, Alan, has already read this whole series, and now that I've read the first two books at least, I can understand why he was so upset and all the differences between the first two movies and these books. I know the second movie's a little bit closer, but still, there's just too many differences. These, again, were pretty good. The first one, I went through it really slow. I wasn't clicking with it. I don't know. The second book went a lot faster for me, and I just don't know why the first book just wasn't going as fast as I thought it was. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I didn't like Grover in these two books at least, compared to the movie, or I don't know. Or like in the books, they're just too young for me to click with. I have no idea. Though in the second book, it did get a little bit better, and I'm expecting that it will get a lot better as it progresses. I do plan to continue on with the series, just whenever I get to it. Next book I read was Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This also had bonus content in it, which include the short story The Tailor, and it also included a Q&A with the author, which again was very interesting to see how her second book compared, and I did like this a lot better. And I noticed that on each book cover, it It, which I didn't know when just reading the first book, though after reading the second book, I figured out why the covers are the way they are and what the pictures mean. Like, the first one is the antlers of the deer that, and this one is the sea monster, that she comes into contact with. And on the third one, there's a bird, so, and you don't find that out really until the second book. But I thought it was really interesting. I had to go back and look at the covers then, after finding that out. Like I said, this one was a lot better. There's more action. There's a guy character that gets introduced in this book that I really, really like. I just like his sarcastic humor and just the way he speaks and whatnot. It kind of makes it hard to hate him, even though he can be frustrating at times. The short story of the Tailor is told from Genya's perspective, and you kind of understand why she does the things she does, why she is the way she is, and it kind of explains how I like everything, and that she's not all one way. So it was kind of interesting to see from her perspective, and kind of like, you would have probably, like, it kind of explains, like, why she would follow that path to where it brought her and whatnot. So that was very interesting. The next book I read was Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi. First book in the Shatter Me trilogy. This was really hard. Really hard to get into. Just the writing style for me was very hard. The strike-throughs were, although I liked them, because it explained, like, what she was thinking and feeling and how they contradicted one another. But the other part that was really hard to get over was the constant repeating of words, which I understand. She was alone for quite a while. I know that's going to do something to you. But it was just very distracting while reading. I kind of ruined this, because I know a lot of people are Team Warner. And I don't know. This book, he's awful! And I know supposedly he gets better, and, Caitlin said to keep with this book. So I'm going to keep with it. I have the novellas, and I have the second book. I'm going to read it. Just this first book irritated me a little bit. Maybe I have to get used to her writing style or something. But I do not know how I can switch from Team Adam to Team Warner, because I'm just going to always remember what he was like in this first book. I just don't know how I could forget. I don't know. Can't see it. I don't know. We're done with that. We're done with that because I don't know. I haven't read the next books. And the next book I read was Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles. I'm not going to talk too much on this, since I'm going to have a little discussion about Cinder and Scarlet and probably the short stories that I read with this. The short story in the back of this was The Queen's Army, and it was just about a little story about Wolf, which I needed to read it because I needed me some more Wolf. I loved this book. He's my favorite so far. I love him. I love Wolf. Not gonna lie. So I needed the short story was cute. It says that you can read the short story in between the first book and this one, but I'm pretty sure you still should read the second book before reading that short story, because otherwise you won't really know where Wolf is. And I don't think, even in the short story, he's named Wolf yet. I believe he goes by his normal name. So you won't know a lot, so I'd recommend reading Scarlet before tackling the Queen's Army short story. I loved these. Again, I'll do a bigger discussion on it in another video. Next book that took me a while to get through was Blades of the Old Empire by Anna Kashina. And it just took me a while just because it was a chunky book. Not because it was bad or anything, it was really good. And the only thing that I really had to mention, I'm going to do a longer book review on this, but a written one on my blog. But the only thing I have to mention is that I wish there was more on Kara's perspective. It wasn't from Kara's perspective, it was from like the people around her, but the main character is Kara in this, basically. In the second book that is coming out this next month, or, well, this month now that I'm recording this, in August, the Guild's Assassin, I think it's called, you do get to see her perspective, so I really, really want to know her thoughts and stuff, so it was really good. And the next book I read was The Giver by Lois Lowry. I have this special edition that includes all 4 books, but I only read the first one. See? It wasn't as good as I was anticipating. I read this originally just because the movie's coming out in August, so I wanted to get ready and kind of know before going into the movie and kind of know what it's about. And since I never read it, I thought I'd give it a try. It is a dystopian, but it's a very slow dystopian. For a small book, it's very slow. And I guess I was expecting for a slow book it to be quick and fast-paced, and it was just a lot of... I don't know what to say. I don't know. It was just a lot of... it was very slow. I don't know what else to say other than that. It was really good still. And I read a little bit about the other books, finding out that they're not about the same people, but I guess you see, the characters from previous books in that book. So maybe we'll find out what happens or whatnot. Because if it just leaves off like that, I'd be very disappointed because in that book for a quartet. And maybe I will. I don't know. I'll have to write. When I read more of them, I'll probably come back and be like, okay, now I understand it, or I'll be angry and confused and go on a screaming rampage. But again, it was okay. I can understand why now. Some people are not liking the trailer because it's very different from the book and kind of, futuristic more than. It reminded me of the movie Pleasantville. Pleasantville was in black and white, and then as, they started to grow and get feelings, it started to go to color. So that reminded me a lot about this book, and yeah, it was a little bit different, of course, than Pleasantville, because they're not the same, but it reminded me a lot of that. And the last book that I read is Colonna's Fall by P.C. Cass and Kristen Cass. In a previous video, you'll see that I kind of mentioned it and talked about it a little bit. So I won't talk about it too much. This is the 4th novella in the series of a 12-book series. So there's nothing I can't even really explain who Colonna is without giving away some of the books, because he doesn't show up till like halfway through, maybe the 3rd or 4th book. I don't know. I don't remember. This series is going on forever. But the 12th book is coming out, I believe, in October, so I am excited to finally finish this entire series and see how it wraps up, and I hope it wraps up pretty good. It's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine, this series. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I like it. I just like how at the end of each book, it's like the end for now. And it's just very fun. They're fast paced. I can read like each book in a day. They're short and sweet to the point, basically. Not in this book, but in the main series, Zoe can be sometimes irritating, but she's not my favorite character, so we'll just pass that. I might do more of, like, when I read the last book, I might do more of a discussion on it then. That's all the books I read for the month of July. At the beginning of the month, it was very slow. I had a little vacation, and I thought I was going to read more than I did because of the car ride, but instead I decided to talk to my significant other and talk about the move that we're going to be doing next year and whatnot. But yeah, I did get quite a bit of books read. I think it was like 10 books, and then there was 2 short stories in there as well. So overall 12, reading 12 books or whatnot. Not too bad for a month. I'm trying to catch up in a lot of reading since I bought quite a bit this month. And I know November's coming. In November, I'm not going to read very much, maybe like a book or 2. But November is definitely going to be my writing month since I didn't write any. I wasn't in the writing mood for Camp NaNoWriMo, but I hope when November rolls around I'll be ready and have my story ready. And I already know which story I'm probably going to write, so that's a plus. But yeah, look out for my next video. It'll be a review. I don't know which one yet, but it'll be a review. Okay, I'm gonna do my August TBR for right now. Have a couple books picked out, and then I'll do my TBR pile pick of the month as well. The first book on my TBR list for August is Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. I have been meaning to start this series for quite a while. Since I've read the whole the Immortal Instrument series, I thought I would start this to kind of fill in some clues and whatnot. I have the whole trilogy. It's been on my TBR list for a while, and about time I get to it. And it's also one of the Goodreads groups that I'm in is also reading this for the month, so thought I'd start it now. Second one is The Titan's Curse by Rick Riordan. This is book 3 in the Percy Jackson Olympians series. Just continuing on from last month's and trying to finish up. This one I know I'll read for sure. Again, I don't know how many of the books that I'll get to, but little by little I'll get through it. The next one is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I believe they're reading this for Booksplosion Pick of the Month. If I remember correctly, it's a Goodreads group I'm in. I haven't had this on my TBR shelf for a long time. It's more of a more recent purchase than that. But I've always wanted to read this, and I like the circus, so hopefully I'll love this book. The next book is The Great Gatsby. I recently just purchased this. I have had the movie since like Christmas time last year, and I refused to watch the movie until I read the book. So, recently got the book because, again, one of my Goodreads group is going to be reading this for the month of August, so I'm like, might as well get it over with, finally. Next one is Wake by Amanda Hocking. This is the first book in this series. I'm not sure what the series name is. I have like the first 2 books, I believe. A friend of mine wants to do like a buddy read about it, so I thought, why not? It's been on my shelf for quite a while. I originally got this because I liked her Tyrell trilogy, so hopefully I like it just as much or better. And last book on my TBR pile is Steel Heart by Brandon Sanderson. I have not yet read a Brandon Sanderson novel, and I must. I watch his writing courses on YouTube, and a lot of people are in love with his Mistborn trilogy and his other books, all of them. So, I only have 2 Brandon Sanderson novels so far, so I thought I'd start with this one. Since, again, a couple of friends of mine are on Goodreads, is doing a little buddy read on this, so I thought, why not? I've been wanting to read some Brandon Sanderson novels. Let's do this. And last but not least, the TBR bag of the month. Pick of the month. Let's see which book I picked this month. Hopefully I can get through all these books. Okay. Let's pick one. Eeny, meeny, miny. No. Let's pick this one. Oh my gosh. Okay. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So for the pick of the month, I picked Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Here is the book. I have been wanting to start this series for a very long time. I first got the books because my aunt said these were very good books, very awesome series. And now I find out it's being made into a TV show. I need to read this. The only reason why I never started it is because they're each like, let's see. This one's $850, and they're all just as big or even bigger. So you can understand why I have not started this series. They're big books, but I will get to this. I might not finish it this month because it is a pretty big book. It depends on how much the book grasps me. That's how. If I whiz right through and probably finish it this month, that means I really liked it and whizzed right through it and no problems. And I hope all the books are like that then. But if it might take me a while to get into. My aunt said it might, like the first book might take me a little bit to get into, but she said keep continuing because it's really good. So, I'm glad I kind of chose this. Been dying to start this series. And yeah, that's all I've got for my August TBR. Hopefully I can get through all the books and more because I still have a stack of new books that I just got and I want to read a bunch of those. So, we'll see how many books I get to this month. But talk to you guys later. Bye.